Who are you? I'm John Cena. John Cena, huh? Well, let me ask you something, John. What is one quality that you feel you possess that makes you think that you can walk out here and face the very best? Ruthless aggression. And just like that, John Cena took on Kurt Angle in a 6-minute match that showed that he was here to stay. Even through all the bumps in the road, the injuries, the championships piled up, the accolades piled up. In 20 years of John Cena, my fucking goodness, where has the time gone? Well, it's gone by to the point that we are 20 years into John Cena's career. So let's talk about it, shall we? I'm John Rhythm with my real honest thoughts on 20 years of John Cena. So I'm going to hit the highlights and the lowlights as best I can, but it's going to be impossible to encapsulate John Cena's 20-year WWE career, especially considering he's been part-time for the last few years. Nevertheless, I don't necessarily blame him because he's gotten movie offers, commercial offers, and he doesn't have to beat his body up anymore. So, let me know some of your favorite John Cena moments in the comments. Let me know some of your least favorite John Cena moments. Because don't get me wrong. Don't fucking get me wrong. There's some bullshit that John Cena was involved in. You know, and some of that stuff I'm going to talk about here. But nevertheless, obviously his Ohio Valley wrestling days. You talk about him being the prototype. Him and I believe UPW, I believe is what it was. He was doing bodybuilding. He got into wrestling and did the OVW stuff. And some of that stuff that's either on The Cock or that you can find on YouTube, it's pretty cool to see the early days of John Cena. And knowing that he could have been a really goddamn great heel. And boy, I could talk about that here in a little bit. And I will once I get to that point in his career. But the early days of John Cena, people act like, oh, John Cena was this and rose up. And no, like after that debut against Kurt Angle, I believe he faced off against Chris Jericho at Vengeance 2002. He beat Jericho, and then after that, that was pretty much it. Like, he was toiling around, not really doing all that much, wearing the colored tights, and a bit too much of like a white meat babyface, as, you know, the cliche goes. And then there was a SmackDown Tag Team Tournament match, or tournament field going on. It was him teaming up with Billy Kidman. Billy Kidman lost, and then Cena cut a promo. It was either right after that or the next week. He's like, you know who lost that match? Billy Kidman, not me. Billy Kidman better get used to losing. And apparently what saved Cena's career, the reports are that Cena was on his way out. They were like, yeah, this guy doesn't have anything. Doesn't have anything, pal. He doesn't have the killer instinct. Ha, ha, ha. But Stephanie heard Cena rapping. I believe Cena and Orton doing some stuff, and Cena was doing some freestyle rap. She heard that and was like, you should do that on camera. Either Stephanie came up with it or Stephanie had suggested it. And I have a hard time believing Stephanie had really good creative ideas at any point in her goddamn career. But nevertheless, the rap is what the rap. I sound so goddamn white saying that. The rap gimmick is what saved Cena's career. Now, granted, early going he had Bull Buchanan B squared as his muscle, and that didn't work. Didn't he have Rodney Mack as his goddamn muscle or something like that? I mean, he didn't have a guard for too long after that. He was in the 2003 Rumble for a little bit, did a rap throughout the entire, entrance. And I believe JR was quote saying, "Word to your mother." Of course, JR would say that. He didn't even have a match at Mania 19. Hard to believe, given how he would rise up and be a part of so many Manias after that. He did like some kind of concert thing where no rap artist showed, so he beat up a couple cardboard cutouts and cut freestyle raps on them. That was in Seattle. I wasn't there due to a car accident where I don't know how bad it was because I suffered such a severe concussion that I had to be told what happened afterwards. I know I suffered a car accident because I had to get a new car, or I know it was a car accident, a bad one, because of an indentation that I remember seeing later. I took pictures. I don't believe I have them on any phone anymore. Apologies. Moving on from that, though. The breakout match really was against Brock Lesnar at Backlash 2003. It was a great WWE Championship match, especially considering that Brock nearly died at WrestleMania 19 doing that shooting star press. But that showed that Cena could really, really do some, and he was getting some good reactions. Even though he was getting booed, he had that feud with The Undertaker. After Undertaker had shook his hand right after facing off against Kurt Angle, then he did, I believe, the same with Orlando Jordan. And he's like, oh, I remember that or whatever, and you know how well that handshake worked out for me. I didn't need you, Undertaker. And then they faced off at Vengeance 2003. I believe faced off on SmackDown soon after that. And Cena continued to have great feuds. He had a great feud with Eddie Guerrero, cutting some reps that really were a little bit too close to the goddamn bone. A lot of somewhat racist comments. I mean, funny in all seriousness, but stuff that hasn't necessarily aged well. Rest in peace, Eddie Guerrero. That parking lot brawl was really good shit. Really, really good shit. That was a great fucking match on SmackDown. And then he had a feud with Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was doing like the bad rapping. And they had a match, I believe, at No Mercy 2003. Where, on the same show, by the way, where Taker and Bork had a biker chain match. A year after they had their iconic Hell in a Cell match, they had a biker chain match. And Vince also beat Stephanie in a father-daughter I Quit match. 6 days before Stephanie's wedding. Her marriage to Triple H. While Linda watched on. I'm not sure which of Linda's eyes she was using to watch a goddamn thing, but she had to throw in the towel. If she'd used her lazy eye, the towel probably would have ended up in the 5th row of the next arena, you know, down the block. Nevertheless, he ended up having a subsequent face turn. Survivor Series elimination match at Survivor Series 03 lifted the Big Show. I believe it was him and a couple people. I don't exactly remember who, but he faced off against Big Show. That was great shit. He then had he looked like he really hyperextended his goddamn knee or his ankle, like at the 2004 Rumble, where Big Show tossed him out. But he persevered through that, won the U.S. Championship at WrestleMania 20, cut a great rap, great goddamn moment, great opening, match. I mean, it wasn't the best match that he would have, but it was great as far as crowd reaction and building. This is how you make a fucking star. They let things happen organically. If only they let that shit happen a little more often. Had a best of 7 series, I believe, with Booker T. Booker T tended to have best of 7 series over mid-card championships. TV championship against Chris Benoit. You know, it was a best of 3 series in the Benoit household in June of 2007. Unfortunately, nevertheless, I've already said that before. Booker and him had a great series of matches. And then he won the U.S. Championship back, and then he faced off against Carlito. Carlito beat him for the U.S. title, and then lost the ability to defend the U.S. Championship when he suffered, it was an elbow injury or a shoulder injury or something like that. But they brought in Jesus, a guy that stabbed John Cena, so Cena could go off and film the Marine. And I want you to think about who Carlito's dad is. Carlito's dad is Carlos Colon. If Carlos Colon's name sounds familiar to you, but you can't quite place it, Bruiser Brody, Jose Gonzalez, and Carlos Colon, and I'm sure one other, cowardly, stupid motherfucker deserves a rotten hell for what he did to Bruiser Brody, concocted a thing where Jose Gonzalez stabbed Bruiser Brody. And Bruiser Brody bled to death. Through a variety of circumstances. Check up on Dark Side of the Ring if you want to see that, if you want to see why. And you also want to see Abdul the Butcher lie through what's remained of his goddamn teeth, you stupid goddamn baked potato with gigs in your fucking head. Let's get back to that. A stabbing, though, occurring with the son, involving the son of Carlos Colon. I don't really think any, and I'm not knocking Carlito there, but that's just really kind of ugh. But he won the U.S. title back. He kept rising into the main event scene. He was in the final 2 of the 2005 Royal Rumble. He was still the U.S. champion. He entered a feud with JBL. He lost the U.S. championship to Orlando Jordan, of all people. Orlando Jordan actually had a pretty long U.S. championship run. I don't know why, because Orlando Jordan, while not necessarily a bad wrestler, was not very dynamic. But nevertheless, he beat JBL with the FU out of nowhere. That's now the AA. And won the WWE Championship. And him and Batista were 2 new, basically homegrown guys winning championships on the big stage. That's how you make fucking stars right there. Cena's WWE Championship run was a little bit dodgy, though. He beat JBL in the rematch, the I Quit match at Judgment Day 2005, where Cena bled only a tiny, absolutely lot, my goodness. Not as bad as Eddie Guerrero the year before, but whew. Then he feuded with Jericho. He did have, I believe it was Jericho and Christian at Vengeance 2005. He feuded with Jericho and continued to SummerSlam 2005. Bischoff is stacking the deck. Jericho looked like he was going to win. Jericho lost, and then Jericho lost on the following night where the loser had to leave WWE. And Jericho got carried out. And actually, Jericho took some time off. Cena continued to be champion. They had that feud with Kurt Angle. Now, the crowd was already starting to kind of turn on Cena in this feud with Jericho. But boy, they really turned on him in that feud with Angle. And Angle had... after Muhammad Hassan got basically effectively killed off because they decided to reenact a terrorist attack on The Undertaker. Which, God, I'm sure The Undertaker being attacked by brown people, I'm sure he was just all upset. Narrow-minded fucker. Moving on. He had Daivari. Kurt Angle had Daivari as his advisor for some fucking reason. And it was a match at Unforgiven 2005. A three-way match, I believe, with Shawn Michaels at Taboo Tuesday 2005. And then they and then it was Survivor Series 2005. And he continued to do well. He was putting on great matches. The one thing I will say about Cena, I've never been the biggest fan of him in the ring, but when he wanted to rise up, when he wanted to do some stuff, he did some great shit. He got formulaic at times, and then he would pull some stuff out where like, wow, he really is a great athlete. And then Edge, who had won the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 21, the same night that John Cena had won the WWE Championship, cashed in right after New Year's Revolution, the Elimination Chamber match, New Year's Revolution 2006. I need to retro-review all three of those at some point. And then he cashed in. Edge had a 3-week championship run and lost it at Royal Rumble 2006. Cena won it back. Had a match against Triple H at Mania 22 in a very, very, I'd say it was grueling because the crowd just wasn't going to give Cena a chance. Now, Chicago's a very defiant crowd. Cena did some good stuff. It wasn't the best match that Cena's ever had, but it was a pretty good main event. He made Triple H tap out. Everybody's fucking shocked. Really, really shocked. And then he just kept being champion. Had the match at One Night Stand, 2006 against RVD. Edge came out, even though Edge had gotten horribly booed that same night, came out, speared Cena through the table. Thank you, Edge. Thank you, Edge. RVD wins the WWE Championship. And then it goes up in smoke, literally. And then he reignites the feud with Edge after Edge beats RVD on the July 3rd, 2006 edition of Raw, where it's a triple threat, beats RVD. Edge wins the championship. They go, and this is right after RVD had beaten Edge at Vengeance 2006. Then we go to SummerSlam 2006, where if Edge got disqualified, he was going to lose. But it was Boston, Massachusetts, and even though Cena, it was his hometown, he was getting a pretty good pop. Edge is still getting a pretty good pop. Edge won, and then he beats him in a tremendous fucking, TLC match. A tremendous fucking, as it were. Wah, 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 wah. 5 knuckles shuffle. Don't know why I put that right by my face. Nevertheless, let's move on from that. You don't even know what I do. He beats him in a great fucking TLC match. Unforgiven 2006 in Toronto. And you could tell even Cena, then there were a couple botches, that's a problem with furniture and a problem with stuff. That happens. But that FU where he just sends Edge, Edge has to basically go ass first through the tables, which is really scary. And Cena even looked like, God, did we have to do that? But it was so great. He wins the championship back. And then has a really, really goddamn long reign. I believe this was the reign that lasted just over a year. He feuded, I believe he blew up the feud with Edge on October 2nd, 2006, or shortly after that. Edge enters into a tag team with Randy Orton and takes on DX. Cena continues to defend his championship, defend it with honor. Then he faces off against the Samoan bulldozer, Umanga. And they have a match at New Year's Revolution. They've been building Umaga up since just after WrestleMania 22. He mowed through people, and then naturally Cena had to beat him, even though they could have done a DQ thing where maybe Umaga has done that. Nope, they had to do something where Cena won, but then Umaga got his heat and had recently splashed Cena through tables, injuring his ribs just before their match at Royal Rumble 2007. Last man standing match. One of the best matches of Cena's career. Definitely one of the best matches of Umaga's career, his short career, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Eddie Fatu. One of JR's best lines, where, they had gotten the ropes, unhooked, and the turnbuckle pad and that kind of stuff, and the rope wrapped around Umaga's neck. Even a monster's gotta breathe. That's great. That's the great kind of JR lines that we need more of. Instead of horny on main JR all the time. After the feud with Umaga, he teamed up with Shawn Michaels against Batista and Undertaker at No Way Out 2007. Great stuff. 2 WrestleMania main events. Human Centipede together in one match presented to you. Had to get that in there. Then he faced off against Shawn Michaels. WrestleMania 23. Great main event. Even though the Ford Field crowd wasn't going to give Cena a chance. By God, that was great. The thing is, though, it was eclipsed by that great 57-minute classic on Raw in London, where Michaels won, but it was non-title. Made no fucking sense. Shawn Michaels win it, but you couldn't interrupt Cena's upcoming year-long title reign. And then, in my opinion, the best of the bunch of those that Shawn was involved in, Cena versus Shawn versus Edge versus Orton. Great fatal 4-way match at Backlash 2007. I would argue one of my favorite WWE matches ever. I would put that at least top 20. And I'm talking all, at least pay-per-view matches. That's so fucking goddamn good. The finish, with everybody hitting their finishers, Shawn hitting the Sweet Chin music, Cena falls on it. It's either Edge or Orton. I don't remember that part. 1, 2, and Shawn just can't get to it. His bald spot got in the way. And also, he was using his lazy eye to look off to the right, keeping an eye on one guy by the vending machine. But because Brett was always better than Shawn, I have to take those shots. But it was great stuff. And then Cena continues to just... He defends his championship at Vengeance Night of Champions, a fatal 5-way match, or a 5-pack challenge. Him, Booker, Orton, Lashley, and Foley. Yeah, Foley was in there for some reason. And then he faced off against Bobby Lashley at Great American Bash 2007. Feud with Orton. It was stopped short because of Cena's torn pec, and during a match with Mr. Kennedy, and then Orton won the championship, lost the championship, and then won it back. And Cena was out until making a shocking return, number 30, 2008 Royal Rumble. And John Cena makes his return triumphant. The crowd, the MSG crowd, by the way, lost it. They don't want to admit. I don't want to admit. But I fucking will, because it's on, it's here on video. Great fucking reaction. He came back. Miraculous recuperative powers. Either the injury was overblown, or different kinds of supplements were used, or he's just superhuman. I'm not superhuman. My voice will be heard today. Okay, enough, talking about Skillet. In fact, after the lead singer exposed himself as being an idiot. But he had a 3-way at Mania, oh my, against Orton and Triple H. And then feuded with JBL. I don't know why they felt the need to reignite that feud with JBL. I really don't fucking get it. SummerSlam 2008, had a match with Batista, had a neck injury, was back at Survivor Series 2008 where he beat Jericho for the World Championship. Wrestled JBL at the 2009 Royal Rumble. Shawn Michaels turned on JBL. Oh my. And then had that 3-way Mania 25 against Big Show and Edge, where he briefly picked up both of them. That is a lot of humanity. The massive, huge manatees. The last manatee. If one particular friend of mine is watching this, she will hate me. Anyway, he feuded with the Big Show. Wasn't very good. I mean, the match he had with the Big Show in 2004, I think, was the best of them. Yeah, the feud in 2009 with the Big Show. After Big Show had cost him the championship at Backlash 2009. Entered a feud, I believe it's an I Quit match at Extreme Rules 2009. Feuded with Orton again. Orton was in his Viper stage, flicking out his tongue and have fun. Have fun on seeing that. And even was Kane him at one point, and just it was the I Quit match at Night of Champions. Night of Champions, no, Breaking Point. Breaking Point 2009. Night of Champions came up in 2010. And then that three-way match. Cena loved to be involved in three-ways. That sounded a lot less dirty in my head. But again, Shawn and Triple H, where Shawn Michaels super kicks Triple H, he falls over and Cena's just like looking at him like. It was a great three-way. So just move hastily on from that. He feuded with Batista after Batista cashed in on him at Elimination Chamber 2010. Beat Batista for the WWE Championship at Mania. Beat him again at Extreme Rules. I believe it was Last Man Standing, and Batista's feet got taped up around the post. And then it was an I Quit match at Over the Limit 2010. And Batista quit because he was tired of the direction. And then he feuded with the Nexus. Now, here's the thing. The feud with the Nexus actually wasn't the worst thing in the world. The Nexus debut where they destroyed CM Punk, Luke Gallows, Daniel Bryan, now Bryan Danielson, doing us a favor and choking out Justin Roberts with his tie. Just going to say right now that given how, the Justin Roberts allegations and him liking to hit on minors, I mean, maybe it wasn't the worst thing for Bryan to do that. Nevertheless, that was years later. Then we go to SummerSlam 2010. Now, he did have a match against Sheamus, I believe. It was sometime, I believe it was Fatal 4-Way. I don't exactly remember. Some of that stuff gets a little jumbled because the summer of 2010, despite the Nexus being involved, was a little bit dodgy. And then the 7-on-7 match, it's Nexus versus Team WWE. They had Bret Hart in there because Ricky Steamboat suffered a brain aneurysm, and they thought, oh hell, Bret Hart can do a few things, and I love Bret. Really, Bret is my favorite of all time. That 2010 run was fucking rough. And Cena took a DDT on the concrete that should have, by all rights, killed him, but no, he rises above hate, and beats, I believe, Justin Gabriel and Wade Barrett within seconds of each other. And even though he joined the Nexus, they tried to juice him up, they were dead. They were totally fucking dead right there. He feuded with Barrett. Feuded with The Miz. Well, he buried Barrett under a whole bunch of chairs. Feuded with The Miz. Their Mania 27 match. They really tried with Miz. I think Miz's first WWE Championship run gets a lot of flack. I think that it was better than people want to say. I'm not saying it was incredible and Miz has never been the best wrestler, but I don't think that they gave it a chance. He beat him in Extreme Rules and then announced, we got him. We got Osama bin Laden. We got him. We got him. Got him. Moving on from that. That was off camera. He then feuds with Punk because they've got Spunk, and then they called upon Punk, and he delivered a pipe bomb, and I don't have the rest of the words to mix that Joan Jett song. Money in the Bank 2011. I can't go over just how great that fucking moment was. Of course, he could have had a feud with Alex Riley, but according to Alex Riley, Cena didn't really like him all that much. And then Alex Riley's push was pretty much just fucking dead. He lost to CM Punk in Chicago. That crowd would have burned that arena to the ground, by the way, if Cena had won. But he did knock out Johnny Ace, which, God, if only it hit him harder in hindsight. But not like that. We're not doing that. Gets hit with the GTS, 1, 2, 3. Punk leaves, blows a kiss, leaves. Cena's going to get fired the next night. Triple H comes out, relieves him of his duties. And then they have a WWE Championship tournament where Ray wins. And then, Ray beats Miz in the finals. And then John Cena beats him 90 minutes later because John Cena is a babyface. This is where things with Cena were starting to test my patience. He then faced off against Punk at SummerSlam 2011. And they ruined the Summer of Punk by having Kevin Nash, of all people, and I love Nash, come down and jackknife powerbomb, and then Del Rio cashed in. Cena would then continue to feud with Del Rio and Punk, and then would team up with The Rock in Madison Square Garden against Awesome Truth, Miz and Truth, and then Rock would rock bottom him, and that would lead to, well, them going back and forth on social media and in promos, and then also he would feud with Kane, where Kane would make him embrace the hate, but he said, no, I will not embrace the hate, you and your weird welder's helmet. And then the great crowd, you know, that made Rock versus Cena once in a lifetime. You lied to us, Vince, you sack of shit. 1, 2, 3. Remember when The Rock beat Cena and everything was all right with the world and they should have turned Cena heel? No. You don't remember that, because how dare anybody think that they should have turned him heel? It would have made too much sense. Could you imagine if they had turned Cena heel? He was all ready to turn heel. He had new gear, had all this stuff and everything. Now look, the Make-A-Wish stuff, all the merch and everything, you're telling me if Cena couldn't have still made money? He would have made tons of fucking money. Even if he was a heel, just until after WrestleMania 29. A year of Cena, a year and a half of Cena as a fucking heel would have been fucking tremendous. By the way, I did forget to mention the Over the Limit 2011 I Quit match that I was there for against Miz. It was fucking abysmal. Brett returning and putting the sharpshooter on Michael Cole should have leaned back and snapped his spine as far as I'm concerned, because Michael Cole is really bad at his job. But nevertheless, he then, Brock Lesnar, that Brock Lesnar returns and smashes Cena, and then they face off at Extreme Rules, and man, if only Brock had won. But no, they couldn't do that with Cena, because Cena couldn't lose to Brock, because he had to lose to check notes. Johnny Ace at Over the Limit the next month. Yeah, I don't get it either. And then he beat Big Show to oust Johnny Ace. People Power from Power. And then he feuded with Punk again. And at SummerSlam 2012 with Big Show in the match. It was a shockingly good triple threat, despite the fact that Big Show was in it. And then another three-way where Ryback was involved, where the Shield debuted at Survivor Series 2012. Survivor Series 2012. Night of Champions 2012, by the way, was really good. And then he won the 2013 Rumble, where he didn't really need to win, because it also telegraphed The Rock beating Punk that same night, twice in a lifetime at Mania 29. Rock tore his abdominal muscle. That delayed the shooting of Hercules. Granted, that movie didn't need any help being tanked. It was sadly the best Hercules movie that was released in 2014. It was one of 3 Hercules movies released in 2014. John Morrison, or John whatever you want to call him, was in one of them. And also they had one directed by Guy Ritchie that was called The Legend of Hercules. I think it was called that. I don't really remember, because they were all kind of absolutely shit. And then he feuded with Ryback after Mania 29. That didn't go anywhere. Then he had a severe, like, bicep or tricep injury or something. He had a friggin' ball, like, hanging off of his goddamn elbow. And he powered through, lost to Daniel Bryan, and then went off and had surgery. And then he came back and he had a feud with Orton. And I was there at the Championship Ascension thing at the Slammies in 2013, where Punk was laughing after Stephanie said that Triple H was one of the best of all time. And then he lost at TLC that Sunday. It was a great moment to be part of, by the way, because we were all chanting for Daniel Bryan to be part of that. And then he lost at he lost at the Rumble 2014 after Bray interfered. And then he lost to Bray, or he beat Bray rather. Instead of losing to Bray at Mania 30, like what would have made sense, he beat him there, lost to Extreme Rules because a kid sung to him with a distorted voice, and then beat him again at Payback? I think it was Payback. I'm honestly trying to fucking remember what the 2014 pay-per-view was after Extreme Rules. But anyway, he then won the title back at Money in the Bank and got destroyed by Lesnar at SummerSlam 2014. Immediately negated when he went toe-to-toe with him at Night of Champions, which was stupid. And then Cena continued. He had that feud with Seth Rollins, which was actually pretty goddamn. He would have a feud with Seth Rollins, a 3-way match at the 2015 Rumble. Fucking incredible match with Lesnar, Rollins, and Cena. Rollins practically murdering his own body just to get Lesnar to do something. And then he won the U.S. Championship, Cena did, from Rusev at Mania 31, even though I was upset that Rusev lost the championship. Cena did have that great U.S. Open Championship run, where he just offered open challenges and did all that stuff, and it was great. It was great TV. He feuded with Rollins. He had an injury. He missed Mania 32, even though he did a run-in. I think he helped Rock. I think he stood with Rock, but he had a shoulder injury of some kind. He then feuded with AJ and lost clean as a whistle at SummerSlam 2016. Basically, he was losing a whole bunch of SummerSlams just to justify the fact that, oh yeah, because he did lose at SummerSlam 2015 as well. He lost one time for each Nexus member, or at least close to it. And then he would put around a little bit. No Mercy, I believe 3-way with Ambrose, Styles, and Cena. Took a little bit of time off. Beat Styles for the WWE Championship of 2017. 2017 Rumble. Lost it at the Elimination Chamber match just a bit after, where Bray won for all of 7 weeks and then did absolutely nothing with it because WWE didn't care about Bray Wyatt. He had a mixed tag where he proposed to Nikki Bella after they beat Miz and Maurice, where Miz and Maurice pretty much stole that whole goddamn thing. And then a flag match with Rusev at Battleground 2017. His appearances are getting more sporadic. Survivor Series 17, where he was part of the 5-on-5 match, but he didn't last very long. He wanted to face off against Undertaker. Kept calling out Undertaker and lost him in 2.5 minutes at Mania 34. Then the Greatest Royal Rumble with Triple H. He refused to go back to Saudi Arabia because of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Bonesaw is ready. He teamed with Lashley against Owens and Elias. I was there in Seattle when Elias said it's like having a basketball team in Seattle. Feud with The Fiend at Mania 36. And a match with Reigns at SummerSlam 2021. And now we have Cena versus Theory coming up likely at SummerSlam 2022. So what does Cena's career ultimately mean? Highs and lows, ups and downs. Some people he probably should have lost to. And he had a lot of championship runs. The only thing he hasn't done is win the Intercontinental Championship. We don't need to have him win the Intercontinental Championship, but it is what it is. Because he's got his movie commitments, he's got all this stuff. Am I saying that Cena's one of the greatest of all time? No. But am I going to say that Cena's had a hell of a goddamn career? Oh, you fucking bet I am. Hell of a goddamn career. What are your favorite moments? What are your least favorite moments? Answers in the comments, please. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.